Music driven noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of jest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor blows the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity where they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steve Fun Kelly with the center clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
How you guys doing? Just 1 second here. I'm trying to wrap up this thing. So, wait, I hope you can hear me. Let me, okay. So, hey there, how you doing? Sorry about the rough and choppy start there. I'm Machine Pun Kelly, and this is the Pun Show. And today, I want to talk about tariffs and the trending pay war, or the pending trade war that Donald Trump wants to have for no apparent reason other than he's an idiot. And so I've been doing some diving into tariffs and how they work, and there's some stuff you probably already know, and maybe some stuff you don't know, and some stuff that maybe you know but didn't think about. And I think that's what that's the area where a lot of people are going to be caught in, is like, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Like, you kind of know what a tariff is, but you haven't thought about all the implications of it and just how much it can damage the economy. So that's what I want to talk about today. Is this is not a frivolous thing. This is not a casual thing. It's so bad that even Fox News is trying to prepare Fox News viewers for it by saying, oh, well, it's going to be bad, but it's going to get better. So you just gotta, bite down on the bit and get through it. But the thing is, there's no other side to this, to where things get better. There's not some sort of goal where you can say, okay, we have achieved this, and therefore things are going to get better after that. There is no objective other than just to raise prices and throw a hissy fit about other countries having the audacity to not put America first. All right. So first, let's just start with some of the basic things. One of them, which is really important, is that America and the entire world are very different now than they were, say, when McKinley was president, which seems to be like what Trump wants to view as the peak of the world. For starters, there's a lot more world trade, and it's not just one country trading a finished product that's been manufactured for another. And then, they're selling that to England, and then England is selling its own finished products to the world. You've got stuff, including raw materials that are coming from disparate parts of the world. So you might have things that are made in America that are, the raw materials come from Ecuador and Liberia and Germany and in China. It's like they're coming from all over the world, all these different products that are being assembled in America, or, they're being assembled in some other country, and some of the raw materials from America are going there, and so on and so forth. And so it's not as simple as just taxing another country or just taxing a product, because if you tax that product, like let's say you tax or you put a tariff on iron, then when you make things with iron, that is a secondary tariff on those. So like if I'm making cars, for instance, and there is this tariff on iron, then I have to pay so much more money for all the iron that I use in my car. So you have just elevated the cost of me manufacturing that car buy the iron. And then, like if there's plastic and if there's a tariff on the computer chips that runs the car and all of those things independently and separately raise the cost of me as the auto manufacturer. And that means that even if you don't have a tax on autos, you still have a tariff on autos. It's just not a direct tariff. So you've got to look at the secondary tariffs as well as the primary tariffs. And so you could have things that are, a tariff two or three times just in terms of the product. And then, like, so you're, like, let's say you have a car that's a domestic car. You can't just look at the price is going to go up if there's tariffs on it too, because of course the domestic products are going to raise their prices as much as they can to where they're still price competitive, because that's the way capitalism works, and it's the way things have always worked, and it's the way tariffs are supposed to work. It's actually the whole point of tariffs is that you put this tariff on another product or another country, and then that protects the industry that you're trying to develop locally. So, if you want to build whatchamacallits, you might put taxes on all whatchamacallits coming into your country so that you can build your own whatchamacallits and then sell whatchamacallits. Then once you start getting a big enough domestic industry of whatchamacallits, you take off your tariff off of the whatchamacallits, and then you start exporting whatchamacallits. And if you don't take off the tariff of your whatchamacallits first, everybody else is going to put tariffs on your whatchamacallits. And so then you're not going to be able to export them. So that's the whole give and take with tariffs, is that they go both ways. But anyway, let's start with the beginning and kind of go through some of the details of these things so that I'm not just babbling incoherently. The way, okay, so first let's just start. What is a tariff? A tariff is a tax put on a good or service that's imported. So like, and it could be a tariff placed on all the products from a country like China. Or it could be like you're trying to protect a particular industry, like we are with computer chips right now. So Joe Biden put a tariff on computer chips. And so then what that does is it makes it harder for those foreign competitors to sell their product inside your country because you've made it more expensive. So then you can make your products and then you can sell your products for less money, but than they are, but you can sell it for perhaps more money than you would have. So that's the first thing, just like a general definition of tariffs. Secondly, who pays the tariff? There's been a lot of talk about this. Donald Trump tried to convince everybody that the other country pays the tariff, which is weird because the other country is usually not even a principal party in the transaction. So it's not like a tariff from Germany pays those tariffs, and it's not like America pays the tariffs. What happens is when you import goods from Germany, let's say you want to import some Audis, and so you import 1,000 Audis, and they're $10,000 or say $100,000 a piece, just to make the math easier. And so then that would make the total cost of the importing 10,000 Audis at $100,000 a piece, what, $10 million, right? So then if you had a 20% tariff on that, then it would be $2 million additional dollars on your thing. So each of those, so you have to pay another $200,000 to get, or $2 million to get those Audis out of the shipping yard. Like there will be Audis that are physically shipped to America, and they will sit in a shipping yard like in Baltimore or San Diego or somewhere, and they will sit there until you pay the tariff. So you, as the importer, like let's say your Bob's Audi, is your thing. That's your car business is Bob's Audis, new and used, right? And so you buy all these new Audis, and then you have to, before you can take those Audis out of the shipping yard, and put them on your car lot and sell them, you have to actually go and pay the tariff of $2 million, which goes to the, I think it's called the Borders and Customs Protection Agency. And like that is like a literal government agency that collects that tariff tax that you then, that you had to pay in order to release the products that you wanted from the impound lot. Okay, that's technically who pays, but there's three ways that pay can be offset or whatever, whoever pays them. One way is you can pay the exporter can sell you the product for less money. So let's say instead of selling you the cars for 100,000, Audi said, okay, we're going to sell them to you for 80,000, and then after the 20% tariff, it would be 100,000. I know the math is wrong on that, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. So it'd be a 25% if it was a 25% tariff, and anyway, you get what I'm saying. Then 25% of 80,000 is 20,000. So let's say it was a 25% tariff. Then they would sell you the car for 80,000. Then you would actually pay the extra 20,000 for the tariff, but you're paying the same total amount for the car that you would have if there were no tariffs. So that's one way they do it, is the exporter eats the cost. The second way is you pay $100,000 and you don't pass it on to anybody. You just swallow that. Now, usually as an importer, that's going to be pretty much most of your profit on the thing, or a good chunk of it. You're not going to make money if you do that. So most exporters don't do that. The third way to do it is to pass it on to the next person in the chain. And now that can be a customer, but that's not usually the case. Usually what it is it's somebody like a middleman, and then the middleman sells it to a retailer, and then the retailer sells it to the customer. So there could be several different points at which it gets resold, and at each point they pass on the cost to the next person, and then so eventually the customer ends up paying. And what that's called from start to finish is, and it's like sometimes maybe the retailer will eat half of the cost, or they'll eat a 20% and the importer will eat 20%, and then the middleman will eat 20%. So by the time it gets to the customer doesn't have to eat the full cost of the tariff. And so they have something that's called a pass-through rate. And sometimes that'll go down to like 90%, where that means that 90% of what the customer ends up paying is the actual, they end up paying for 90% of the actual tariff. And the higher that is, that means the more the end customer ended up paying. And the lower it is, that means the less the end customer ended up paying. But in 2024, the pass-through rate was 100%. I mean, there is theoretically, there's a way where other people can absorb some of the costs, but we're in the age of oligarchy, and as long as you have money, the idea is not that you eat some, or that you don't make as much as possible. So we're in the age of oligarchy. And number two, it shows maybe things are a little tight for some people, that they don't have the wiggle room, they don't have the leg room to do that. And so that profits are running so tight that they don't really have the option of just eating part of their profits and passing it along. So this ends up becoming a sales tax, but it's not a sales tax in the sense that you don't get to write off any of these taxes or anything like that. They're just part of the cost of the item. So and then so like if you were like a third profit or a non-profit organization or something, that sometimes you don't have to pay taxes, you have to pay taxes on this because it's a tariff. It's baked into the price of the item. So, and then the other thing is that because it's effectively a sales tax, it's also a regressive tax, which means if you are a regular person that you make, let's say, I think a good ballpark might be around 55 grand a year. Like if you make less than 55 grand a year and you're single, you probably don't have a lot of expendable income. Maybe you have a little bit, but as you start getting over that, and you get in around 85, 90, and depending on whether you're single or married and have kids or not, but you start getting into where there's a little bit of flexible income there that you can wiggle with, and the more you make, the more you have, and then you get into where you can start saving money and you're not spending all your money. But if you're basically spending all of the money you make, that means all the money you make is getting taxed with sales taxes or tariffs. And so that means it's going to be, if you're paying, spending everything that you make and 10% of that money is going to tariffs, that means that tariff is basically effectively a 10% income tax on you, versus someone that spends $100,000 but only makes $200,000, and so they're only spending half of their income and they spend 10% of their whatever they spend on tariffs. That's only a 5% tax on the wealthy person's income. And of course, the more you make, the less of a percent of your income goes towards tariffs and or sales tax. So that's why those are called regressive sales taxes. That means that you spend more money on your income on your taxes the less you make. You spend a higher percentage of your money the less you make. That's why sales taxes are innately unfair, and that's why tariffs are innately unfair, and that's why red states love them both, because it's a poor person problem. All right, but okay, so that's in terms of who actually pays is the importer, but who effectively pays down the road is usually the customer. I mean, at this point, you can just say the customer. It's like 100% of the time the customer pays. So let's put all this nonsense about it's not about who pays. Let's put all of that to bed. So the second thing is to realize that the tariffs are not just on the thing itself, right? Which I'd already talked about this a little bit earlier, but like if there is a tariff on something, that's just one facet of it. There could be like 6 or 7 tariffs on one thing, depending on what you need to make something. So if everything it has a tariff on it, then the end user of that particular cycle, if you follow me, is the manufacturer. So like the manufacturer had to buy ore, so the import person that imported the ore sold it to a middle manager or a person that distributes ore, and then he sold it to the manufacturer. So there's already some aggregate cost built up in the ore, but then the guy also needed to make something, like he needed diamonds or he needed platinum or whatever. All of those things also increase their cost. So that means one of two things. One, it can mean that the cost of that end product ends up getting raised to the final consumer. The other possibility, and this is one I think a lot of people don't really think about, is that manufacturing business goes out of business. And this actually happened with the with the steel and aluminum tariffs that Trump put on, is that some companies that needed steel parts and aluminum parts to manufacture what they manufacture couldn't get those parts anymore, or those parts became so expensive that they couldn't go with that same customer anymore. And so they ended up not being able to produce things at an effective enough cost to sell it. So they went out of business. And the steel tariffs ended up costing 75,000 manufacturing jobs. It did not end up in a net positive of manufacturing jobs. In fact, the other aspect of tariffs and what happens is that when you slap these tariffs on everything, other countries slap tariffs back. And so while you're not importing as much because you're not using as much because of the tariffs, you're also not able to export as much. So a lot of times the net usage actually goes down. And one thing we're seeing in Canada is where Canada is very upset, and I understand why. I'm totally on Canada's side here. They've never been anything but an ally to us. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump just decides they're enemy number one and Russia's our best friend. Well, I mean, that's a bunch of nonsense, but as far as the tariffs go, what happened is now Canada, you've probably read they stopped selling our liquor in their liquor stores, and they're taking all our boxes, anything that's American made, they're taking boxes and they're putting them upside down to let people know that, oh, you shouldn't buy this product, it's an American product. And so it's not even just tariffs that are keeping people from buying American products. There is a Canadian will to not buy American products. And so that's all going to hurt our export industries, the farmers that make the stuff that's getting sold there or whatever. And so that's going to take away American jobs just from losing the export business. So we're losing jobs from the import business due to the higher cost of manufacturing things. And we're losing jobs on the exporting side of things because, countries don't like being attacked and told that they're not worth anything and they should just become the 51st state. And so they don't buy our products. And then that takes our jobs away too. So this kind of, and then when you do that with, like, Canada buys more American goods than any other country in the world. I don't know if you knew that. And on top of that, if you don't count for the oil, like we buy a lot of oil from Canada, but outside of oil, we actually have a trade surplus with Canada, meaning they buy more products than we do from them. So it's not like Trump is out there acting like Canada has this really unfair trade policy with us, which really hasn't changed much from NAFTA. But when changes were made by him and he's out there acting like, oh, who made this stupid deal? He literally said something like that. And he's the one that made the stupid deal. But it's not actually that bad of a deal, and it's not that different than the one Clinton made. But, that's not really the point. The point is that we're selling more stuff outside of oil. We're selling more stuff to Canada than we're getting, and we're going to be losing more stuff to Canada than they're going to be. Then we're going to be, not buying from Canada. So we're going to hurt more from this trade war with Canada than Canada, even though we're the far larger trading partner. But it's not just Canada. Mexico is our second largest trading partner, and we're starting a trade war with them too. And now we're talking about the European Union, and we're talking about China, and we're talking about India. And so I don't know when we're going to start a trade war with Australia, but I imagine that's only a little bit down the line. So when we start all these trade wars with all these different countries, then the whole thing I was talking about where you get different aspects of things from different countries, well, you're going to have that complicated because it's going to be all of these countries now where we're going to have higher prices coming from these different goods, which is only going to snowball and make the problems at home even larger. And we're going to be losing all our exports to all of those countries. So this is what I say when I say, where is the way out? What is through? They talk about, we just need a bite down and we'll get through. And so, like, what does that mean? Do they think that we're going to become entirely self-sufficient and not need anything from anyone else in the world? Because number one, that would be dumb. It's just not possible. Not with the kind of mining resources we need and minerals and stuff that, just, not everything exists in America. And it's not like everything is growable in America either. We might have a little tiny bit of coffee supply, but there's no way we could ever grow enough coffee. There are other things like a textile industry where we could, make our own clothes, but we're already at 4.1% unemployment, which means we're basically at full employment. There's not a lot of people wandering around looking for jobs, as much as the Republicans would like you to believe that all the Democrats don't have jobs. Most of us have jobs. Most of us earn money. Most of us make a living. And most of us wouldn't benefit from moving toward a textile manufacturing job. And I don't think most Republicans would either. Most Americans would not. Most Americans aren't like just itching for the opportunity to work in a sweatshop. So we would never be able to compete with imports from a textile industry, and we wouldn't want to. Like, we would much rather be looking at, manufacturing computer chips and higher end things where these are higher paying jobs. So no, we can't. We wouldn't want to be self-sufficient, because that would mean that we are actually poorer as a nation because of that. So again, I ask, what is through when they say we're going to get through it? What does that mean? What is through? What is the end point? What is the goal? What is the objective here? What are we trying to achieve by starting this trade war? Because it doesn't seem defined. Anytime you ask a MAGA, well, okay, what is the goal of the trade war? And they're like, oh, well, it's going to get manufacturing jobs. And it's manufacturing what? What manufacturing jobs do you think that this is going to produce? And if it's going to produce that manufacturing job, why not just do tariffs in a simple, non-complicated way where that is the objective? Why not focus those tariffs rather than do this shotgun spray that we're doing, hoping that we actually get something? So I don't understand that. I don't understand what is the start point, what is the end point. I don't understand what the goals are. And I don't think that anybody in the Republican Party does either. That's why nobody will explain it. It's always just vague, abstract things like until we get through, or bring back manufacturing jobs. You'll never hear them say what manufacturing jobs they're going to bring back. Never once. I've listened for it. I have not heard anybody say that. It's always just general. We're going to bring back manufacturing jobs. Whose manufacturing jobs? Who wants those jobs? Hey, if anybody's watching and they want to tell me about how they just their life dream is to work in a sweatshop, go ahead. Let me know. I'll admit I'm wrong. But I don't see anything popping up on my screen. I don't see anybody saying, yeah, that's what I want to do for a living. I want to make t-shirts. Like, and the other thing that bothers me about all of this is that this should not be something that everybody is shocked about. Like, it's not like Donald Trump just after election day said, oh, we're going to do tariffs, and everybody was like, what? But somehow he was talking about tariffs all the time, and I was screaming from the rooftops how stupid that was. And still the idiots went out there and they voted for him because they listened to him and not me for some reason. And yeah, that was a joke. I'm me, and I don't have quite the platform. But if people had listened to me, then Donald Trump would not have gotten reelected. And then right away it was like the big thing is everybody, the big Google search is, do tariffs really mean this? And it's like, yes, tariffs really mean that. How could you not have known that? Like, this is not a mystery that we were waiting to solve. Everybody knew what tariffs were that needed to, well, everybody that Okay, not everybody knew what tariffs were that needed to know, because clearly there were some people that didn't know what they were that needed to know. So there's that. But I'm sorry about my shiny head. There's a light bulb right there, and I've got anyway. It's all to do with my background thing, and hopefully I'll figure this out someday. But anyway, tariffs aren't going to solve anything, and if they are, what are they going to solve? I still have not heard a single thing. Has anybody else? I mean, if you're watching, have you heard what thing they're supposed to solve? What through means? Because I haven't. I just keep hearing, oh, we're going to get through. Things are going to get better. And all that means is that they're admitting things are going to suck really bad, really fast. And they're already trying to, do damage control for the 2026 election. Because this is just an unforced stupidity error. There's nothing that comes of this. There is not a single good thing that comes out of this. And you know that there's not, because they won't even tell you what good thing is supposed to come out of it. They know that there's not a single good thing. Go on, Stephen Miller, tell me. Tell me what is going to come out of this. Like, more jobs for white people? I don't think white people are, itching for the chance to go work in a textile factory. It's just like this hatred for the rest of the world that drives them on everything. Anybody else, any other country, any other color, any other religion, they're just so souped up with hatred of anything different. Anything gay or anything transsexual or anything transgender, I'm sorry, anything gay, anything that's not Christian, and by not Christian I mean not pseudo-Christian. Actual Christians really anger them too. But what's the goal? What's the objective? Tell me. I'm waiting. Please, Stephen Miller, tell me what the objective is. Anyway, there's been some talk about Trump running for a third term, which is, of course, nonsense. And I think it's, more distractions. But I think specifically what he's trying to distract from is this. This is going to be the story that ends up being the story of this 2 years of this congressional session, is how will we respond to Trump's trade war and to the damage done by Trump's trade war. And I am not kidding. I expect we'll be in a severe recession, if not a depression, within a few months. I don't see things going well. We've only just started to feel the impact, if we even have it all. It's mostly just right now speculation. We're not actually paying a lot more for goods yet, but that will happen, and that will happen like starting tomorrow, when Trump really uncorks the tariffs. And then the other thing that's kind of lurking behind that we're not really seeing is that a lot of the undocumented immigrants aren't harvesting our food. They're not showing up to work because they don't want to get deported. So our food's not going to get harvested. And it's not like if half the people come, they harvest half the amount of food and we get half as much. It's like once that farm goes under, we don't get any of the food from that farm. So we're going to have a lot of food rot on the field while we go hungry. And then the price is going to go up for those foods because it's just, basic supply and demand. If supply goes down and demand stays the same, the price goes up. It's not like egg prices went up because we suddenly decided we all wanted to eat eggs for dinner and breakfast and lunch. Egg prices went up because the number of eggs went down. Well, now just take that same math and apply it to the entire food industry. And then when you add on to that we're going to have these tariffs on Mexican foods and Canadian foods, then it's like all that dairy that maybe we could have gotten for a decenter price, or all those avocados, or all the, there's a lot of food that we would have been able to get that we won't be able to get now. And it's like, especially with the produce and the things that are harvested by hand, we're going to really miss out on those, and they're going to go up a lot in price. And those two things are going to go together along with the tariffs. And so then you're going to have big time unemployment, and you're also going to don't miss out on this, the underemployment. You're going to have a lot of people that are taking much lower wage jobs. They're going to be losing good jobs and taking low wage jobs just so they can have jobs. So watch the median income. It's going to come down. We're about to really hit a rough financial patch, possibly the worst in history. But I would say I would be surprised if it wasn't the worst economic patch since the Great Depression. I don't know if it'll be that bad because, we had the Dust Bowl that went along with the Great Depression, which exacerbated things. But it's going to be really, really bad. Mark my words. It is going to be bad up in here. So, do what you have to do now. Buy food, freeze food, can food, get your food, because we're going to be running out of food. I don't want to, make it sound like I'm a prepper or something, but things are going to get bad, and it's not because of, some mystery virus or some kind of secret government program. It's going to be because of just stupid government people doing stupid things like start a trade war for no reason at all, and a bunch of other stupid people getting on board with stupid person number one because they're too stupidly afraid to tell stupid person number one that what he's doing is stupid. But it's all just a bunch of stupid. It's just stupid on stupid. And the result is going to be that a lot of Americans are going to lose their jobs. A lot of Americans are going to die. A lot of Americans are going to be hungry. A lot of American kids aren't going to get their food. A lot of American kids aren't going to get school lunches. It's going to be bad. It's really going to be bad. I don't think that we, and I keep thinking it's going to be bad, but I wasn't ready for, I guess I did kind of see people getting disappeared and deported for disagreeing with Trump, but here we are. I was called a fearmonger about that too, but here we are. And so, call me a fearmonger, but the economy is going to get really, really bad. And I really wish the media would stop kind of hemming and hawing around this like there's some sort of ambiguity. No, there is a place for tariffs, and that's like if you are in a very calculated way approaching it from a specific industry where you're trying to build that industry, so you place tariffs around that industry so that you can protect it on a domestic level. There's also cases where countries have seriously unfair trade practices, so then tariffs can be a reaction to that, a reactionary device, which this is not. It's not like Canada was our worst enemy. I mean, our two biggest trade partners, right? So it's not that. It's just stupidity is all it is. Donald Trump is just a stupid man. He did not go to Wharton. He did not graduate from Wharton. He might, I don't think I mean, if he has a diploma, he certainly didn't earn it. I cannot imagine in my head, I cannot fathom somebody that went to Wharton that doesn't know what a tariff is or how it works. And he will explain and argue the characteristics of a tariff in a way that is just so objectively wrong that there is no way he could have ever learned that from Wharton. And I know people that went to Wharton. My brother went to Wharton and will laugh at the idea of a tariff being paid by another country. I mean, it is insanely stupid how stupid he is. But anyway, enough about Trump. I just wanted to jump on, especially in light of the fact that This is going to happen tomorrow. I mean, and we're just like sitting around and not making a big deal about it. And it's like, this is a big deal. Tomorrow is like a pivotal day in the history of the world. Do you realize that? Do you realize that? It's not just going to cause a national recession. Like, because the whole globe is so connected, when America's economy takes that big of a hit, the entire world's economy takes that big of a hit. And you've got like the drunk driver in charge of driving the car right now. So it's only going to get worse. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse as his worst natural, his most immediate natural reaction to anything is always the worst, always the worst, always the dumbest. It's like he just wants to keep backing up and bashing the car into the brick wall again and again, hoping that eventually he will be able to drive through the brick wall or something like that. But that's not going to happen. There is no other side. There is no going back to 1890 when, by the way, there wasn't even a 16th Amendment for personal income taxes anyway. We can never go back to that, and it was bad anyway. It's like the 1890s were so bad that we passed the 16th Amendment so that we wouldn't have to rely exclusively on tariffs and excise taxes, which is excise taxes are another thing. But yeah, there's a reason that we went to income taxes. And in 1895, we tried to pass the law, but it got thrown out by the Supreme Court. And that's why they made a constitutional amendment so that we could have personal income taxes. But personal income taxes are part of progress. They're not a part of, they're not another obstacle in the way. The only way that the 1890s were great for you is if you were extremely rich and you were like an oil baron or something like that. I mean, the wealth gap was the biggest it's ever been then. So maybe in terms of the oligarchs, that is the glory days. And that is what Trump wants. And they want to go back to where, you'd had to send your kids to work in the plant with the doors locked so that they couldn't go take lunch and get away with something. Maybe that is what he wants. Maybe that is what Elon Musk wants, but it's not what I want. I don't think it's what most Americans want. So Americans need to wake up and realize this is what Trump is doing. This is where he's trying to bring us. He's trying to bring us back to 1890s Industrial Revolution America. That's what it is to make America great again to him. If you think that's great, then fine, keep voting for him. But I sure don't think that's great. Okay, I think that about covers what I wanted to cover today. Thanks for joining those who did. And didn't get any comments today. Sometimes I get comments, sometimes I don't. But either way, I appreciate you guys. And I will see you around the Twitterverse.